Hey, welcome back, American Government class. It is Thursday, February 4th, 2021. Hope you're having a wonderful week. It is our last class of the week. So you know what that means? Quiz time. But we're going to replace that whole weekly review quiz with a vocab quiz today, like I told you. We're going to put it up on the screen, let you go over it so you can send me the answers. I've also sent it to your email today. I'm getting ahead of myself. Blah, 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 blah. You got a vocab quiz today because it's Thursday. All right? What else do we got on the docket? We're going to talk about last class. Then we're going to talk about elections and voting. Some of the things that make up our government, the political processes that make our government what it is, and how you guys have the power again because it's democracy. We'll figure out how you utilize that power and how it's been utilized in the past. After that, then we'll give you the vocab quiz. Now, with both of these two things, your notes and your vocab quiz, I sent them both to you this morning. One email, two attachments. So your vocab quiz and your notes are in your email, both of these. We're going to do both of them today. Only one part of this elections and voting note sheet, though. You'll see when we get there where we stop, and then we'll pick that up next Monday as well. Quiz, we'll do the whole thing, the entire quiz. It's just like any other quiz you guys have had for vocab in here. You'll have multiple choice, 5 words or so, and you have to pick 3 of them. Fill in the blank kind of deal. After that, I'll hit you with the attendance and your assignment, and we'll be off to the weekend. Kind of. Only so, tomorrow's classes. Anyway, last class review. You guys, you did the survey. Great job doing the survey. I know a lot of you reached out to me and said, hey, this is really cool. I didn't know I was considered this. There you have it. I didn't know you were considered that either. Good for you. Good job. Now, is this survey the end-all, be-all? Was that just, hey, you are this because you answered these questions that way and you will always be that? No, of course not. You are young. You are just starting to come into a world where these things might begin to matter to you. Some of you, they may not even matter yet. I can tell you when I was, a junior in high school, I was like, government, I could care less. And now here I am teaching government because I love it so much and think it's so important. Point is, people's views, people change. And, maybe you're not ready for it, but maybe later on you will be. Maybe some of you are now, and you're like, hey, this is pretty cool. I didn't know I was this. And you're starting to get into watching the news a little bit more, realizing what's happening in the world, and having opinions about it. So hopefully, either way, this survey helped you out a little bit. I'm glad to those of you who reached out to me and said, hey, this helped me out. This was pretty cool. That makes me happy. Feel it right there in the old heart. Now, today, we're going to talk about specifically elections and voting. So now that you know how you feel and you know where you stand, or you're starting to know where you stand, we're going to talk about some of the most important things in our country when it comes to our government, and that's the elections and voting. Who votes? How often they vote? What type of elections we have? And so on and so forth. So for that, you will need your notes, all right? We're going to switch over. I'm going to share my screen with you. You're going to see us fill out these notes, and you just have to follow along and fill out your notes. You can type them in. You can handwrite them in, whatever you need to do. But make sure you're filling them out because I'm feeling it's going to be part of your attendance and your assignment. All right? So without further ado, let's check out those elections and voting notes. All right, election and voting note sheet. Go ahead, put your name, date, hour on this puppy. Why not? You know what? You don't get to do that often. Throw your name and date. What is today's date? What do we got? The 4th? Hour? Hours. Do those even matter anymore in this pandemic? Of course they do. 3A. All right. So these are kind of Cornell notes. It's a guided note sheet that you guys, can follow along with. But very important. This is kind of the interesting stuff of government. Like I said, we've done all the back talk, all the background information. So now let's move on to the important stuff. And basically what we need to start with is voter participation, meaning in America, how many people vote? Well, it's now 2020, now really 2021. But since 1960, voter participation in the United States, what do you think? Do you think it's increased or decreased? I want you to focus. Really think about this one. Do you think people have started to vote more or have voted less? Well, since 1960, overall, voter participation has decreased. And I know we're not underlined. Just fill it on in there. Recently, we've seen a huge spike in voting over some of the past few years, but overall as a whole, since the 60s, the percentage of people voting in this country has gone down. In the 60s, you had things that were very, very important to a lot of people. You had the Vietnam War. You had civil rights and the civil rights movement with Martin Luther King Jr. You had presidents like JFK being assassinated. So people really voted quite a bit, and it was a huge thing for them to do. Now, there are still those type of things going on today, and that's why you're seeing an uptick in voter participation. But compared to the rest of the world, the United States does not vote at all. Oh man, we have about 50 to 60% turnout if we're lucky. I'd say more, 30 to 40% turnout. That's not a lot of people. In some countries, they have up to 95, 97% voter participation. Now, in some of those countries, it's required by law. You must vote. We know that's not the case here. That is a responsibility of a good citizen, but it's not required by law. In some countries, it is. But in some countries, it's not, and they still vote quite a bit, which, is very important and something that we should be hoping to do. Now, top reasons for not voting. When people say they didn't vote, why do you think that they didn't vote? What's some excuses that they give? Well, of course, the first one in America now, they're too busy, or the lines are just too long. Maybe you've seen people standing in lines on election day and they'll say, oh, I don't want to do this. That's just too much of my time. It's not that important. I've got too many things to do. Maybe they do. Maybe they have a family they have to get a hold of. Maybe they have to work. Maybe they have to buy groceries for that family. We do not get a holiday for election day, which we'll talk about later. So being busy is a valid excuse. This is a huge one. My vote won't count. People think that in this country, their vote doesn't count because so many people are voting, their vote certainly couldn't count. One vote amongst millions and millions of votes, mine won't matter. And is that true? Well, let's talk about that. One, it's not true because this is how you get to express your opinion. You get to vote. You get to raise your hand and say, I want this person or I want this thing. Also, if everybody who said my vote won't count voted, do you think that would change an election? It absolutely would. So many people that don't vote because they think their vote won't count, if they all got together and decided to vote, they would completely swing any election they decided to vote in. It would be monstrous turnout amongst those people. So in the overall scheme of things, does one vote matter? Not necessarily if you're looking at it technically, but when you think about like the ins and outs of voting and why it's important, does your vote count? Absolutely it does. And you should be proud to be able to vote and proud of your vote. Now, one other reason for not voting is something we call voter apathy. And I don't know if you guys know what apathy is, but this is something that my students practice daily. And I don't get to see you this year, but man, in the past, you were apathetic. And if I asked you to go look it up, you probably wouldn't because you just don't care. Ugh. Yep, that's what apathy is. Not caring. Can't be bothered to do it. And they don't care about voting. So apathy is when you just have somebody who says, I don't care about it. Hey, go clean your room or you don't get money. If you're acting apathetic, you just don't care about the money and you're not going to clean your room. Same thing with voter apathy. You don't care about voting. You don't care about government. You don't care about politics. You don't care who wins, so you're not going to vote. You don't even want to think about it. That is a huge reason why some people don't vote in this country. Now, one more, just to add it to the list here. Whoa, we went all the way down here. Don't know how that happened. We'll go on out here. We'll add a little D to that puppy. A big one recently has been that people don't like the candidates. They say, Hillary, she's not my president. I wouldn't vote for her. And Trump, I don't like him either. He's a moron. Same thing with this most recent election. People said, I hate Trump and I hate Biden. I'm not going to vote because I don't like either one. While these are all certainly excuses and valid, it's very important that if you guys get the chance to vote, that you participate. Because again, it is raising your hand and raising your voice to say what you want and participating in this government that really only works if everybody participates. Now, when we talk about elections, the states are all in charge of elections. If you recall, the power is reserved, and we use that word specifically, to the states through the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment, which is in the Bill of Rights, says, hey, anything that we don't discuss here, these are powers that are reserved to the states. And they don't really discuss elections in the Constitution. So the states get to decide how they want to do their elections. And for that reason, the rules and the ballots vary. And what do I mean by that? Well, the rules are different for every state, and the ballots, which hopefully you studied as a vocab word, that's how you cast your vote, are different. For example, in Arizona, oh, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Let's go over here, and we'll move this puppy in there. In Arizona, we have something called a fill in the arrow ballot. And I'll show that to you guys next class. But that's where we kind of, you know what? Why don't I show it to you right now? Whoa! Zooming on in. Bringing it on in for the real thing. All right, maybe I don't have to be so loud, huh? All right, here we go. Here's our ballot in Arizona. Two-sided. Now what I said is, it is a fill in the arrow ballot. So if you take a look here at just the top part, zoom it on in, we've got the federal part of our ballot, meaning national. And what you got is you got different names here. You got Romney and Ryan, Obama, Biden, Johnson, Gray, Stein, and Honkala. Now, these are the people for president. And if you look, this is from 2012, so it's a while ago. But what you do, you choose which one of these tickets you want to vote for. Now, Romney, Ryan, that's REP underneath. Can you see REP? So that's the Republican Party. Obama, Biden, that was the Democratic Party. Johnson and Gray, that was LBT, that's the Libertarian Party. Stein and Honkala, GRN, that's the Green Party. So these two parties here, those are our third parties or our minor parties. When you decide which one of these you want to vote for, you just complete the arrow that's right next to them. And that's the same for anything down the line. So right here you see U.S. Senate, U.S. House of Representatives. Then we get done with federal and we go to our state stuff. So only Arizona, our state senators, our state representatives. Then you have things like a county recorder. You have the sheriff. Look at that. Joe Arpaio. You guys remember him? Ugh. Paul Penzone, Mike Stuffer, all these people, that's who you would get to vote for. And every time you see an arrow, that's basically one section of somebody that you can vote for. And you would just take your pencil, boom, or a marker, whatever they give you, and connect those two spots right there so you make it a full arrow. And that, my friends, is what a fill in the arrow ballot looks like. All right, so that's a fill in the arrow ballot, and that's different from other states. Some other states might have a pull the lever, where you pull a lever for the person you're voting for. Some have a CHAD, where you push it through. If you've ever seen, you know, where you're voting for something and there's like little perforated lines, little circles, and you punch out the hole for the person you want to vote for. Others have it all digital. There's a whole lot going on. Arizona has the fill in the arrow type of ballot. Now, continuing to talk about how the states are in charge, some states, as I mentioned earlier, or some even countries, will give you the day off to go vote. They think voting is so important, they'll say, hey, you know what? Let's have a holiday for Election Day. And in Arizona, I am very happy to tell you that I am not happy because Arizona does not have a holiday for Election Day, unfortunately. That's a bummer. I know we don't get the day off to go vote, but it makes sense that you should be able to. We just aren't there yet. Now, when talking about voting, we have voting districts. And voting districts are basically political subdivisions of the state. Now, there's two things you need to keep in mind here. There's congressional districts and there are legislative districts. Let's go ahead and see if we can squeeze some more in here. There we go, and boom. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's go to the layout. Go to margins, narrow it. There we go. All right, so now, two things that I want you to keep in mind. With our congressional districts, when we talk about congressional districts, we are talking about national districts. So we can even say the entire USA. Legislative districts are going to be much different. Those are going to be state, which of course is only AZ. So when you hear legislative, think state. Legislative districts are only in Arizona. Congressional districts are in the entire US. Now, there are blank congressional districts in the United States. You should know this because there is one for every single member of the House of Representatives. And how many members are in the House of Representatives? Do we remember? It's a big number. Oops. 435 congressional districts in the United States. And that's how many members there are in the House of Representatives. So for the House, we divide up the entire country into 435 different zones. And in Arizona, we have 9 of those 435. Yep, that's it. 9 old congressional districts. Whereas states like California and New York and Texas, they have in the 50s and in the 40s and 30s. They have so many more districts, but that's because they have more people. Hopefully you beat me to that one. Now, there are approximately 500,000 people in each district. That's 500,000 people. They try to divide these districts up as evenly as possible to represent the states the best that they can. But this number right here that's by the state, however many voting districts that state gets, it's all based on population. So you get more if you have more people, less if you have less people. And they try to divide it up to about 500,000 per district. Now, voters in each district elect members of the, well, we already told you, it is the House, oh, we're in all caps, House of Representatives. That's what the voters elect for congressional districts. And since Arizona has 9, don't you think we would elect 9? Nope, you only get to elect 1 from each district. That makes sense, right? If we have 9 districts, we elect 1 from each district. That means we have 1 person representing each district in our state. There's 9 districts represented by 9 different people, and all of those people work in the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. Now, reapportionment, that is when we change the districts, and that happens every 10 years. Every 10 years, we look at where people have moved. Because these 500,000 people that lived in this district, who says they still live there? It's been 10 years. Over the past few years, a lot of people have moved to the Sun Belt states, meaning Arizona, California, Nevada, maybe even a little bit of Texas, because they're trying to get out of those cold weather places. So since people move from state to state, every 10 years, we have to change the districts. And Arizona might change this number. They may get more if more people move here, and they may get less if people move away from Arizona. And that happens after a certain type of data is analyzed. And that type of data is called the census data. And the census is very important. The census is basically a population count where we ask about, people. Hey, where do you live? How many people live with you? And we count the people of our country. and we find out exactly where they live. Now, this is all on a national level. Of course, we said legislative districts are all on a state level. Now, this is for the state governments, and this is very similar, but it's different. So in Arizona, we have legislative districts, and there are 30 legislative districts in Arizona, meaning we're going to have 30 different representatives across our state who make laws just for us. These guys make laws for AZ. These guys up here make laws for the USA. All right? So these 30 districts are represented by specific people, and voters in each district elect members to what we call the state legislature. If you recall, we talked about this a while ago. This is part of our federalism, where we have some United States representatives and some Arizona representatives. The state legislature is like our state Congress. And the people in each district actually elect 2 state representatives and 1 state senator. And that's completely different than up here in the congressional districts. Now, gerrymandering is something that we are going to pick up next class. And actually, we got to pull this up. Our notes got a little messed up here. Gerrymandering will be right here. Gerrymandering is a topic that deserves its own day, really. But this is where we're going to stop for the notes today. 1-page notes. We talked about voter participation, the states being in charge, how we have an arrow ballot, fill in the arrow ballot, but not an election day holiday. And then this is more of a national and global look at our government, how it's broken down. These guys, 435 congressional districts. In Arizona, we have 30 legislative districts. They make the laws for the Arizona, and these guys make the laws for the United States. Gerrymandering is where we will pick it up next class. So let's go ahead and see what's the time for. Oh, vocab quiz time. Let's get it. All right, y'all, this is your vocabulary quiz, just like every other one we've done so far. Now remember, I sent this to you in your email, so you don't necessarily need to read the answers and the questions right now. You can take a look at your email, get a better look at it. But we have our first 3 questions, and there are 4 different choices that you can choose to fill in for these 3, meaning you will not use one. Then every time you see stars, that means we go to a new section. We have 3 questions and 1, 2, 3, 4 words that you can choose. You'll only use each word once. For these right here, you'll only use these 4 right here, these 4 for right here. For example, when I say you will only use each word once, you won't put ballot in here twice. If it's one of these, you'll only use it once. And this is what it looks like, a simple 12 questions. That's it. Remember, it's in your email, so go ahead and go open that email up. Make sure you get me these 12 answers. And there you have it, folks. That's it for today, all right? 2 fairly short classes this week, not too bad. Your assignment and attendance for today, number 1, send me a picture of your completed notes right up to the spot where we stopped. And number 2, obviously, send in your vocab answers, whether it's handwritten and numbered, or just filled out on the sheet, typed, handwritten on the sheet. I don't care. As long as you send me in your answers to the vocab quiz so I can put that in the grade book for you, that's all I care about. Make sure you give me that picture of the notes too, and that's it. Hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and Friday, obviously. But I will not see you till Monday. We'll complete the rest of those notes on Monday, and we'll start the week. I don't think we have a day of school not coming up. 15th, February 15th. I'm way ahead of myself here. February 15th. Wait, not the 15th. I'm lying again. Yep, it's the 15th. It's the 15th. Hey, Valentine's Day. You get Sunday night, and then you get the day off of school on Monday. I'm still way ahead of myself, but, you know, keep it in the old noggin. You don't have school on the 15th. I'll say it again later. Anyway, you guys, get out of here. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.